Welcome to the village. Today I have a panel with me to discuss this really hot, important topic of school shootings and along with that, gun control. So I have Bob and Mary. If you guys want to tell everybody who you are and why it's important you're here.
I'm Mary Gilston. I'm a licensed clinical social worker for behavioral health. I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm presently in the primary care office. It's called Collaborative Care. We're bringing behavioral health services to the folks and patients on staff.
It's really great to work with you.
Feel the same. I'm lucky.
Bob, we miss you around here.
I'm Bob Arminio. I've retired from the Armed Forces, and I've also retired as a security officer for St. Mary's Healthcare. Did a lot of training with soldiers on weapon systems, master marksmanship trainer, outdoorsman, all that craziness. But I'm gainfully retired at this point.
Well, it's great to have you here for this.
We may have two different schools of thought, so it'll be interesting to hear the opinions and the feelings about it, because, I'm finding this whole thing, there's so many pieces to it that I can't get my head around it.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts.
An awful lot of moving parts, and I was just talking to Dr. Mujid about how I want to hear other people and I want to try to form a solid ground, but it's hard to get my feet on solid when it talks about talk about fourth graders being shot up so bad they can't even be recognized.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in what you have to say, Bob.
Well, unfortunately, I've experienced people being shot up so bad you couldn't experience for my all-expense-paid vacation in Iraq. The shootings in schools are terrible. I don't know how you can prevent it, neither.
Exactly.
Without hiring a security force to keep the bad guys out.
I can't come up with an answer.
We try to teach the children about weapons safety and when you should have a weapon and when you shouldn't. And then we're going against all that by introducing them to weapons in school because they need to be guarded. They need to be kept safe. And the only way you're going to keep them safe is to have an armed expert there.
So you're for a security guard with a gun?
I'm for any security person in many situations should be armed so they can protect.
A fourth grader, if I had the information correct, I listen to National Public Radio all the time, and I'm hearing more and more debacles that took place in that school. They couldn't find a key?
Yeah.
It was just horrific, and I can't imagine being the mother of those children and thinking they were in there.
Well, you guys know that if I catch you when I worked here propping a door, I probably pressed the issue too much, but that's why I pressed that issue of propping the door open with a rock. That's how the guy got into school.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah, it only takes a second for somebody to do harm to somebody. Was my outlook as a security officer was for me to keep people safe, I have to stop that. That way I can control who's coming and going. I can see who's coming and going. You need to apply the same thing to the schools.
I agree to you. It doesn't take very much at all.
And the other problem that I have is these people that are committing these crimes, they're not licensed, law-abiding citizens who have a license to carry like I have. I went through a very strict background check, and they waived my training because of the training I did in the Armed Forces. The judge said, you don't need to do any of this, you're good. But anyways, they also knew about most of these shooters that there was a problem.
Yep.
So there was a mental health problem. Or
people question whether it's a mental illness. It's not a mental wellness. If you can shoot how many fourth graders to the point of not being able to recognize them, that's some form of mental illness.
Every one of these people that have committed a mass shooting has had issues that the police department or the FBI or Homeland Security, they have to tag them. I'm sorry. They have to tag them and they have to keep track of them. They have to make sure that they don't get guns.
What prevents that, Bob? You're right. They have been on the radar.
Yeah.
So after everything that we've been through, why do you think there's not more progress in saying, okay, this guy should not have...
I think it comes with, like we practice the HIPAA law, and mental health is even more stringent than that, and I agree to that. But if you have a young person that says, I'm going to hurt somebody, the flag has to go up and has to stay up until it's positively proven that this person is going to be a mass killer or shooter.
And I take it, there's another opinion, that option is that I think as much as these children in school need to be safe and kept safe. If somebody's mentally ill and going to do something along these lines, protect them from himself. Let's protect let's just get this, separated. But
That's probably the first thing is self-protection for that individual first and foremost. Just work on that right away. Don't slap them on the wrist and say, hey, don't do it again, and let them go.
Right.
It appears that they're doing that or they're not watching them or...
Well, yeah, so then there's so many steps and levels, right, where this kind of prevention could happen. There's so much focus on once the kid is at the school, but then why did it come to that? Our mental health facilities and our capacity for mental health, what are we doing there?
Well, the other thing is in schools, if somebody has an issue with an individual, they have to report that. People are not doing that because they have this feeling about causing somebody problems. I mean, we have people here that I've encountered that I know they witnessed something, they wouldn't tell me because they didn't want to make people feel bad.
Or get in trouble.
Or get in trouble. There's got to be a point where you got to say, hey, this person's got issues. Somebody needs to talk to them and direct him to the right person. I don't want to tattletale. Well, from not tattletaling, we've come up with how many kids killed in one school?
Absolutely. And there were people that definitely knew about it ahead of time.
And I'm one of those people that have always taught my soldiers and my kids, if you see something wrong, don't walk by it. Do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't do something about it, tell somebody about it. I don't care what it is.
Absolutely.
Don't walk by a problem without at least reporting it. Mind the teenagers. There's a toothpick in the corner. Tell housekeeping.
Right.
That's how I work my soldiers and my kids.
And then if you do report it, then that person has to then report it. Like, there's so many levels to what reporting means.
I would like to believe that then that person has to do something. I think in many cases, or in some cases, it gets stopped at a certain point for not a good reason.
Yeah.
I'm not saying in every case, I don't mean
yeah,
that.
and there's cases where this person knows this person and knows that person, or
knows
they're
the
friends
family
of friends
and
of friends, or that's my cousin's nephew or whatever, and that's will sometimes stop stuff, which makes it even worse.
That's very true.
I firmly believe that there should be a reporting system from the day the child's born. If there's issues that look like it can be a down the road problem, monitor the individual. I went to mental health for a year after I came home from Iraq.
Oh, of course.
Voluntarily, because I knew I was having problems. I said, I got to fix this.
Exactly.
And it was great. But there's people that won't do that, or the parent would say, no, not my kid, not Johnny.
Yeah,
absolutely.
A lot of teenagers don't want to fix I guess you can't say they don't want to, but they're not in a place where they feel like anybody can help them. And it's not that people don't want to. Right, Mary, you've seen some teenagers, they're very troubled, but they won't come to their follow-ups with you, or they won't agree for real treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Teenagers and children, teenagers in particular, are the hardest people to work with. Some of them very easy to work with, but as a whole, they're very resistant to treatment. They're resistant to opening up. They don't trust. They peer pressure. All of that just makes it very difficult. But
I understand what I'm going through.
Right. After everything that's happened and all the children we've lost, I don't know why we don't have a better, and I don't know what it is, but a better system within the school to say, I'm worried about so-and-so.
Well, I firmly believe to be a resource officer at a school, you don't have to be a police officer.
Oh, no. You don't have, no.
What kind
the
of
training that I've gone through,
Yeah.
I've been shot at more times in a day than they have their whole career here. Not saying that's a bad thing. With the training that I've been through, I could be a resource person anywhere. And that's what you do. You have people who, I ran towards the gunfire multiple times because that was my job. My job was to stop whoever was trying to hurt people and to do away with the problem.
So you think there should be like a stronger security force within every school?
Yeah, I think so. But the thing is they claim police officers are highly paid individuals. A veteran, a combat vet who is, screened and vetted properly, because some of these guys got problems. I know a bunch of my friends that I was with over there that can't do that. They got problems. They won't get help, so they're out of the question. But there's so many of us from Iraq and Afghanistan that have faced live fire and have faced the enemy. What it really is the training. You react because of the training that you've had. you have done it so many times in training that it's muscle memory. Even your mind is muscle memory. So you don't think at that point fear, death. All you're thinking is mission, do it.
Mm-hmm.
I know how to do it. You do things automatically.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it's all over, for the first couple times that I had contact, I went, wow, training really, really did work, because I really
Yeah.
don't know how I did that.
I
Right,
guess, yeah,
right.
that's what training,
And
yeah, so that was
repetitive
me.
training gives muscle memory, which gives the reaction time, small amount of reaction time directed towards the problem. And that'll solve the problem.
Yeah, so you think kids will be discouraged to attempt things like this?
That's the other thing. If you want to stop a country from bullying another country, what do? You send
Yeah.
troops in and
Right?
you push them out. If you have a establishment that has people carrying handguns and stuff, do you think somebody's going to go in there and try to rob the place? I don't. If they do, they're not very smart.
Well, there's a lot of that going around.
Right. You know, I mean, that's the problem. The press isn't reporting the good guys with guns taking care of the bad guys
Right.
with guns. The press isn't reporting that. It's happening all over the place. But yeah, it's just training. They don't have to be police officers, because there's some people that I've served with are damn good at what they do.
I agree with you 100%.
Damn good at what they do, and they've been there. They've been there. They've been shot at. They've returned fire. Unfortunately, take somebody's life because they were trying to take our life first. So it's either them or you. I have confidence in myself to the point where if I have to engage somebody, I have all the confidence in the world that I'm going to win. I'm not afraid to lose my life because I've come so close so many times that
But not everybody,
I'm happy with what I've done in my life.
not everybody veteran or not veteran police officer, it has that
No,
character.
you have.
And-
It's only a certain group that's been there and knows and understands. I mean, there's people who've been over there and they haven't been near anything. They maybe hit an IED here or heard an explosion or a rocket came in or something like that. I mean, it's scary. Kicking doors in and going in houses and stuff
Yeah.
is adrenaline. I'm an adrenaline junkie. I'm sorry to say that.
But then you do need people who are, and you're a soldier.
Forever.
Yeah, that doesn't go away.
I have done this stuff so many times.
But and
you don't forget it.
if Bob is here, I mean, there must be
And you-
like you said, it would solve the problem.
Well, you got a guy sitting over here that I know very well that is just as trained to me, and he's retired.
Ed,
You know,
Yeah,
I
Eddie.
love
he should
Eddie.
come join us.
I enlisted him
Yeah,
in the service.
yeah, and I'm sure
I
you'd
love
enjoy a job like that too.
He's the kind of guy you want around.
Right. I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, him too. He's
Yeah.
around, you feel safe. Now, there's this other idea about decreasing the ROTC programs in school.
What is that?
ROTC is like the Air Corps. The Air Corps is for people who can't go in the military, so they put them in the Air Corps. I can't remember the name of the program, but a lot of the people that go there aren't qualified to join the military. They have
Mhm.
asthmatic or medical issues or whatever. But ROTC is, the Army has it, the Marine Corps has it, the Air Force has it, and it starts kids out in
Like in high school.
high
to-
school, like 7th grade,
Yeah.
and they dress in uniform.
I see
they learn
them.
how to march, and
I
they,
see them all the
they
time.
do parade training, drill and ceremony, and they teach them the important things that you should know growing up about respect and honor and honesty and all
Listen.
the things the parents should be teaching.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
right. But it's
And a lot of these kids will end up going in the armed forces, and you're fostering them for that. But at the end of the ROTC program, they don't have to go in the military.
Why are they pulling them out of schools?
giving them like the mindset to have guns, to use guns, to be aggressive. I guess that's the thought.
They might teach them marksmanship in ROTC, but the killing stuff comes at a later date.
Absolutely. I kind of don't know what that has to
Yeah.
do with
I don't think
anything.
that they're talking to a kid about, hey, we're getting you ready to go to Afghanistan
Right.
or anything like that. I was offered an ROTC job when I
Yeah.
retired. They offer to everybody that retires from the military. And I didn't want it because I served in combat.
Oh,
So
would
I
you
want that
rather-
to spill over.
Would you rather be in a school?
I would be resource officer if I was a little bit younger, but I'm getting elderly now.
Because then the question is, if we ask guys like you to be in the schools,
A lot of guys would do it in a heartbeat.
but how come you wouldn't do it?
I'm too old.
His age.
I'm almost 70.
How old are the guys who would do it?
There varies. Depends on who, what group you're talking to.
Yeah, there's a big difference. Yeah, there's a variance.
I mean, if my high school told me that they would hire me as a resource officer, I would probably do it. The high school that my kids went to. But I don't have to work anymore. So.
Yeah. That's the first thing you said when I met you today.
Yeah.
I told you to come back and
But
you
it's
said no.
it's just, I really like it. A lot.
Good.
Well, 'cause
You
it's
just-
fun.
Because I've
It's-
always been a doer. I've been like
it's-
building stuff and
It's an
I'm a
intense.
carpenter
You've
and
had an intense career. Doing what you do, you have to take a break at some point.
well, what happened is I gave up my all the whole time when I was here and when I was in the armed forces. That was number one. Now it's time for me
It
That's
is.
right.
and my family.
Right.
That's
You-
right.
you
Because
do.
I was
You
gone
do.
a lot.
Yeah.
and
No, it's good for you. So I think what better than decreasing things like an ROTC program is probably when you think about some of the other violence kids are seeing, right? Even as simple as a video game. Kind of giving kids aggressive and violent
That's
nature and kind of affecting mental health.
well, a lot of these kids play Call of Duty and all that stuff, and I've played it with my grandsons, and it's pretty realistic to a point,
Realistic where?
As far as the combat stuff the kids play, with shooting each other and competing in combat operations type stuff, it's pretty realistic. They get that they're invincible type feeling playing this game, which may promote them to be braver on the outside with a weapon.
Recently, a young boy, I forget the age, I think it was, 8 years old, stole his mother's car. Did you read about this?
I think I did.
He drove it. He did it 2 or 3 different times, and I think he crashed the car. But when
My daughter did that.
when they asked him how he
Stacy?
Both of them, they
knew how
were
to
for
drive,
driving.
it was from the video game.
Maybe teaching kids things they really shouldn't be exposed to.
Maybe there should be an age limit to that,
Yeah.
but it's up to the parents to police that, which is another
Yeah,
issue.
yeah.
It is.
Because we can not have to worry about our children. They're sitting over in the room playing games.
Yeah.
We know that they're not going to go outside and they're not going to do anything. They're there. That gives the parents peace of mind to a point. I mean, when I was growing up, I was outside. And
Oh, me
I worked on
too.
a farm
I
and
was
I
too, yeah.
hunted and I fished. I had a paper route and I had a trap line. And the day I turned 17, I joined the United States Army because my father said, you got to serve your country. And the rest is history.
And you were needed.
Yeah.
You were really needed. It's just disturbing too. Yes, we can do things to protect the schools when there's a kid out there doing this. And I mean, do we arm the teachers? That's the other thing that came up with the recent shooting in Texas. Do teachers need to be armed?
Well, there were multiple problems with that whole thing. It took over an hour for them to even open. They couldn't find a key to open a door or something. I mean, it was like over an
There
hour.
was a lot of failures in that school shooting. A lot of failures.
That was very, very, very sad. And I think, as a parent, it's bad enough to think that if someone's going to get in your son's or daughter's classroom and shoot them, but to know that there was such a debacle, everybody was dropped the ball on it. It took over an hour. So this is just so multifaceted. Yeah, how well is a school trained to protect the children? I mean, this was a place where the plan didn't work. Do we have resource officers? How are these kids being raised? Have you heard something about, someone who said, I'm going to, because it's happened this way,
Yeah.
I'm going to come in and I'm
It
going to
seems
kill
like every
everybody.
time that happens, it starts out with, oh yeah, well they knew about this.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's usually
But he was
the
under the
case.
radar. Well, why
Yeah.
was he under the radar? I mean,
And,
Yeah.
well, part of the problem, I believe, is politics. I do. Absolutely, I do. I think things don't get
as
addressed.
far as teachers being armed now, I think it's better off to have a set standard of resource officer training. Police officers are trained very similar to soldiers that are trained in urban warfare. Urban warfare is fighting room to room, building to building in the city. I did it for 6 years. I did it so much I could still do it. But a good resource officer training program that would incorporate police officers and ex-military personnel. The Marine Corps does the same thing the Army does with their combat stuff and their urban warfare stuff. Actually, the marksmanship standard came from the Marine Corps. and it's used in all the other armed forces. So it's a standard that's the same everywhere as far as weapon use. But yeah, I would have it. The only problem is you can't do it with one guy
Right.
in a building. You can't do it with one guy. You can't. One guy can't do it. I mean, if you have a building where you have one way in, one way out, but you got somebody goes out that door to smoke a cigarette and they put a Coke can in the door, so you lose.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
you lose. One way in, one way out, but still you should have at least two, because if people are going to hurt somebody, they will use explosives, they'll use automatic weapons. One guy, it's very hard to keep a building closed off to bad people. You need a team.
And I think when I talk about politics, I'm not talking about Republican and Democrat.
Right, yeah.
I'm talking about who knows who in the system. Oh, this is so-and-so's son. Let's not cause a problem.
Yeah.
Oh, he's on the board of directors. Let's just, let's handle this otherwise. I think this is a crisis of a huge portion, and I think if this is ever going to work, we got to get people on the same page, and I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, you have to have a standard.
Yes.
Nobody can stop.
Yes.
Nobody can say, no, we don't want that here.
Yes.
It should be a standard within the state, within the United States, the same standard
All right.
for every single school, the same way, same everything, which comes down to, oh, the United States military could do that.
Yeah. Is it a gun law issue? Are we allowing?
Wow, they're working on some of this stuff. Like one kid bought the gun, 18 years old.
Right.
They're making it 21, but still,
I know.
his friend's 21 can buy that gun and give it to him.
Right.
Steal it from mom or dad. I think it's more a home issue first.
Me too. I agree, Bob, because I think if you raise your children with respect.
I grew up, my father had guns, and I never touched them. I knew if I touched them guns, there was going to be a problem. But when I was 8 years old, he bought me a gun. I needed a gun to trap. So when I was 8 years old, I had my own .22. And I never shot nobody.
I grew up with two hunters. We used to go out to camp when I
We
was.
hunted, we fished, and I ran a trap line every day, go before school, and carried my .22 everywhere. Nobody bothered me.
There's the other issue, which I always bring up, which while you're here, we'll talk about it. There's that show on Netflix, 13 Reasons, and it brought up every single school issue possible. Some of it was glamorized, so I don't think it helped us, but some of it was on point, where there was a school shooting that it didn't happen, but it was going to happen, and the kid had been bullied so badly, and you felt for that character. And they made you kind of understand his pain of what had happened with his bullying, but because he seemed so at risk of doing something, hurting himself or others, a group of kids took charge of keeping an eye on him and being his friend. So bullying is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping an
Huge.
eye, looking for warning signs. But why are there so many mentally ill kids? Why are kids so upset that they feel the need to shoot all the other kids? Where is that coming from? Like, you can protect and have on that end of things, like the security, but why are children wanting to shoot other children? Why are children so angry they want to kill a 9-year-old that didn't do anything? Why is this happening?
I don't have the answer for this. I think it's multiple things that Bob were
There's
talking about.
different levels. It starts at home, I think.
I think if you work with your child and you, first of all, if it were my child and I truly work with them and love them and I know there's something off, I'm going to be the one to get them help.
Right.
So we're not going to
Right.
just send them off to school and say, have a good day when we know there's something wrong.
When I was in school, all my teachers knew about me. They knew about my problem. They
Mine
knew
too.
about my family. There's people I still go and see and thank them for what they did for me as a kid, as a child, as a teenager. They guided me down the right path.
Are we seeing more bullying, mental health?
I have to tell you that I put a lot of onus on social media.
Oh, yeah.
It's exploded bullying. It's awful what people do to each other over this thing. And kids now have all this information about the school shootings, suicide, this, that. It's not that I would hide it, but I don't think they're emotionally ready to have that information at that point in time. I don't know. How do you walk into a fourth grader's schoolroom and shoot children so badly you can't recognize them?
That was another issue that was brought up when I was doing some reading about, everyone's thoughts. There's some psychologists and researchers that wrote about this topic, and just too much coverage, too much media coverage
Immediate.
when this happens.
Immediate.
The psychologists say that people who are responsible for these school shootings are narcissistic and they want this kind of negative attention. So when you put it on media right away, they're getting the attention, right?
They're famous.
Mm.
They become famous.
How do we change the media?
It's hard because the media used to be where you could learn all the different sources and stuff, and they would tell you everything. And now they're only reporting on what makes money for them, what's a big story. And as an example, they don't report a good guy with a gun stop the bad guy from shooting people, killing a bunch of people. That's happened many times. They don't report that. But they report the school shooting or the mass shooting or the mass bomber. They don't report the guy that stopped the guy out in the mall out west somewhere. He shot him from 40 feet away with a handgun, which is an amazing shot. But he stopped it where he shot.
I want to
the
thank
plane.
both of you for, you can wind
Thanks,
up. I
Mary.
need to
Yeah.
leave.
Okay,
Thank you. This was very interesting,
thank you.
and I've got a lot to think about.
let's talk a little about the National Rifle Association. They always come up when school shootings happen.
Mhm.
The anti-gun people look at them as an enemy of sorts,
Mhm.
some kind of a conspiracy. Their take is they're trying to protect people by, guns are for protection.
Right.
That goes hand in hand with the Second Amendment, how it all starts.
I am a member of the NRA. I wasn't for many years because I just felt that it's a money deal. You gotta have money to do what they do. It takes money, lots of money. So I am a member of the NRA. I think probably because it's just they stopped bugging me.
But
but-
do you get letters or phone calls from them?
Yeah, I get a magazine and a newsletter, and they give you updates, emails about what they're working on and stuff like that. I really think that they've gotten too big. I really don't feel that they've done anything for us New York
Mm-hmm.
people who want to exercise their Second Amendment rights, but they're not evil. It's not a conspiracy of any kind.
They're a big business
They're
like everybody else.
They're a big lobbying business.
Yeah.
That lobbies for the Second Amendment and gun safety and all kinds of stuff like that.
Are we
I mean,
taking the Second Amendment the wrong way?
the Second Amendment, the problem is people aren't reading it right.
Right.
People think that Second Amendment is there for us to be able to bear arms and protect our homeland in the event that our government goes south or we get invaded by the enemy, foreign or domestic. I know it was written back in the musket days,
Mm-hmm.
but let's be serious. If we have to protect our rights as Americans against our government, we're not going to be able to do that with muskets. Tell you the truth, from my experience, you're not going to be able to beat the government anyways
Mm-hmm.
because of the stuff they have.
Yeah.
But
Right.
the right to bear arms, protect yourself, protect your land, protect your family, I'm all for that. You have to do it right. You have to follow the law. That's what the Second Amendment's all about.
So having said that, then if a kid, an 18-year-old, turns 18 and then runs out to buy a gun the next day, should we be questioning his motive?
Things are different. Back in my day, I went and bought my own BB gun. The guy that owned a hardware store was my godfather.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and I had enough money from trapping. And I bought my BB gun. That doesn't work nowadays. It's different. I firmly believe that you shouldn't be able to purchase any kind of weapon system until you're 21 years old. An adult, responsible, and you are at the age where you can be punished if you break the law.
The drinking age is 21.
Right? I mean,
Not
I was
that it's
17.
working.
I was 17 when I was in the Army, and they said if you're old enough to die, you're old enough to drink. And I could drink in bars at 17, but I was in the military. I firmly believe 21 should be for purchasing any kind of gun. Should be 21. Now, it's not saying that they can hunt with a borrowed weapon from their parents. It has to be supervised, normal.
Mm-hmm.
Most people, that's what we do. So the NRA to me is just big money. They're always
Yeah.
asking for money. I really don't like being part of something like that.
Yeah.
It's just every time that they send you something, they want money.
So they're not necessarily really noble, but they're not evil.
Right.
They're just there.
Right.
Now,
Exactly.
I watch some YouTube videos. If you go on anything there, you look up what the world is saying about the United States with the school shootings, they're all blaming guns. They're saying, we don't have guns and we don't have school shootings, and you guys have majority of the guns and majority of shootings. They're laughing, the British especially, they love to laugh at us. They're talking about the problem's so obvious, and I don't know, do we have more mental health issues in this country too, though?
I think it's parenting myself from the beginning. It's, my mom and dad were parents.
Mm-hmm.
And me and my wife were parents to our children.
Mm-hmm.
We took it upon ourselves to teach them right from wrong.
Yeah.
My wife stayed home, raised the children. She taught them how to read and write and everything, even before they went to school. And then when they got in school, she went to college and became a teacher. It starts at the home.
Mm-hmm.
Everything starts at the home.
Yeah.
Everything.
You come home and know that someone's going to talk to you, see how your day was, make sure that you're doing what you have to do. And the reason, there's a lot of this acceptance too. I did a physical for a 17-year-old girl the other day. Her mom brought her in, and we were talking about starting some antidepressants for her. She's been depressed, she's been anxious, but she didn't want to start them because you're not supposed to drink alcohol when you take antidepressants. So the mother was saying, she's been drinking and partying all summer, so she didn't want to do that. I said, well, can't she find something else to do? It's summertime. She's 17. There's a million things. So she said, oh, there's nothing to do around here. I said, well, get your friends together and take a trip. Do something. The mother said, that's what all the kids do. They're kids. That's an acceptance. That shouldn't be accepted to you that your kid is feeling anxiety and depression. She spent the whole summer partying and you say it's normal, so she won't even take a medicine or get the therapy to feel better. Instead, she's doing something that's going to make her feel, and that's normal to this mother. Sometimes there's repercussions. Sometimes there is a lack of attention. Don't let them be upstairs, play. I don't know where they are. I don't know what he did. I don't know what he ate. If you check in with your kid and see if there is some kind of bullying, there is some kind of mental health issue.
Right. You have to listen and watch for that stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. And maybe sometimes the parents are so overwhelmed with life that they're not monitoring stuff like that. As where we did. My wife was really good at it. I was in the armed forces for most of their life, so.
There's a lot. You got to start from the ground up.
Structure.
Yeah, right. So with your armed forces, you said most of their growing up life, so you were stationed somewhere or the other?
Yeah, well, what I did with my kids is we lived out in the middle of nowheres, so I taught them how to identify mushrooms and animals and birds. And I still have the book to this day where when they would identify a bird, we would mark it with one color for Stacy and one color for Gina. And it's still there. And I did the same thing with my grandkids with that same book. And took them fishing. I mean, we could walk out the back door and be in the woods. And they played in the creek behind the house. We're lucky that we had that kind of stuff around us.
You basically sacrificed all this time with your family and your kids' growing up years to protect people.
Yeah. I mean, it's our job to build them, I think. I think it's the parents' job to build their children, build them the right way. I'm very proud of Stacy. I'm very proud of Haley. And
so you have 2 daughters and then multiple grandchildren.
Well, I raised Haley. We raised Haley from 12 years old until she was 22. So she calls me dad, too. But I got 2 grandsons, a granddaughter, a great-granddaughter, and a great-grandson. Yeah. My daughter lives next door on a piece of land that I bought for my parents. When I moved my parents back from the West Coast, they live there. And they're passed now.
Is any final thoughts on this big controversial issue? Are we ever going to solve it?
You got some places that have, but you have so many indifferences with the politics, the dynamics of I'm got more money than you, or the connection with family and the school board or politics. I don't think so.
It always boils down to this big political thing. I know not always parties, but here, political parties.
If they take everybody's guns away, you honestly think what's going to happen.
It shouldn't be black and white. There shouldn't be everyone has them or nobody has them.
Yeah.
some people should have them and other
Right.
people shouldn't, right?
Well, where I live, when I go out for a walk, there's bear, there's wolves, there's mountain lions. I need a gun to protect my horse, to protect my pets, to protect my family. I need a gun.
Mm-hmm.
Simple as that. I don't
But
live in
then-
a city.
Does the 18-year-old who is depressed and talking about doing all these things,
Yeah, well, like
He
I
doesn't
said,
need a
it starts
gun.
out that if there's any indication that there's an issue, then you need to address
Yeah.
that issue. You need to monitor it.
it's always troublesome when there's a controversy, right, that it ends up, whichever way you look at it, the children are suffering.
The other thing is, too, that it seems like nowadays it's easier to make yourself the victim quicker than it should be, you know. It seems like the way that these kids go is they immediately become a victim.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately.
And maybe, like you said, that's something they're learning. Who knows from where? TV shows.
You know, keep your chin up, keep driving forward, keep leaning into it, don't stop. You know, don't threat to things that you don't have control over,
Yeah.
because you're not going to be able to fix it anyway. That's how I raised my kids.
Yeah. There's the Baker Act, the Florida Mental Health Care Act, which allows for when you see someone who's at risk of hurting themselves or others to involuntarily get them institutionalized. You don't want to do that
No.
to your loved one. That's the last thing you want to do. Yeah, it always ends up with a debate and people want to be right. If we can actually work through something, we can make things better. But, you know, people have egos, people need to be right, people need to bring politics into it. And that's a sad thing, whether it was the pandemic or school shootings or whatever the case is, when you're so divided, nobody wins.
Well, it's about feelings. I always used to operate on not allowing my feelings to make my decisions for me.
Yeah.
And if I'm feeling like I'm stressed or whatever, or I'm having sad feeling or excited feeling or whatever, I know. And in the armed forces, you can't make decisions with your feelings
No.
because it'll cost somebody's life
Yeah.
or equipment or something. So I always learn to not allow my feelings to make my decision for me. And a lot of people do that. They feel it, so that's what they want, is what they feel.
Yeah.
You know, what they want to make them feel better, they want to do that without really thinking through it. A lot of people like just throwing money at it, too.
Yeah.
We'll just give them money.
Yeah.
They'll fix the problem. Well, not really.
Right. No.
Here we are with this thing with the tuition thing.
Yeah.
I went to college in the Army. It didn't cost me anything.
Mhm.
It's very hard to do while you're on active duty, but I did it. My wife went to college to be a business teacher, got a grant. When she graduated from college, 4-year degree as a teacher, all the schools stopped the business programs. So I had to pay the grant back.
Really?
Raising 2 kids. Yeah, I had to pay the federal grant back.
Doesn't seem fair.
Yeah, we paid it back. It's pretty simple.
Is there any final thoughts to wrap up?
Like I said, taking everybody's guns away isn't going to solve the problem. Because people that don't follow the law, don't abide by the law, are going to have guns.
Right.
Or they're going to have a knife. Or they're going to have something, baseball bat, or whatever.
Yeah. Laws
Whatever
only
it takes.
laws only do so exactly whatever it takes,
You know,
and laws only do
I
so
mean, you
much.
can go in a place where there's no guns with a baseball bat and do a lot of damage,
Mhm. Oh,
or a knife, sword, but the guns aren't killing the people, it's the people who's killing them.
a lot of food for thought. We need the people to not be the source, and we need people to be kinder to each other. We need to be more together. We need to fix some of the mental health, and a lot of the bullying needs to stop. Well, thank you so much for all of your insight and for being here, for hanging out with me, even though you're retired.